Hello, I'm Stuart Crainer, co-founder of Thinkers 50, the global platform for management ideas. Thank you for joining us for what promises to be a unique and compelling program of events. Our webinar today will be followed by the option of taking a free customized assessment, and then we'll be running follow-up sessions in April. It's a great pleasure to be partnering this with Dave Ulrich and his colleagues from the RBL Group and CorpU. Dave is a member of the Thinkers 50 Hall of Fame, which celebrates thinkers who have had a profound long-term impact on the worlds of management practice and ideas. With Dave Ulrich, this is beyond doubt. He has published over 30 books on leadership, organization, and human resources. Dave is a professor at the Ross School of Business at the University of Michigan and a partner at the RBL Group. Above all, Dave is a man who has championed the role of human resources in organizations. He has consistently reminded organizations and those who lead them of their humanity. Today, Dave is joined by Norm Smallwood and Alan Todd. Alan is CEO of CorpU. He is a true pioneer in the field of corporate learning. He was chairman, CEO, and co-founder of Knowledge Planet, a company which helped launch the online learning revolution. Norm Smallwood is co-author of 8 books and is co-founder of the RBL Group. So it's a great trio in front of us today. Dave, Norm, and Alan will be introducing the organizational guidance system, a uniquely powerful and comprehensive means of making sense of organizations, which will enable you to make human capital decisions which deliver results. So please send in your questions during the session and we will answer as many as possible. Let us know where you're watching the session from today as well. It's always good to see where people are in the world. Now, Dave, Alan, and Norm, the stage is yours.
Stuart, what a privilege. I'm going to take the lead and then Alan and Norm will join me in the discussion. What an honor and a privilege to be part of Thinkers 50. It's a group that identifies thoughts that are helpful, and I hope today we can share with you some ideas. First of all, let me welcome you. And in the world we live in, we are digitally distant, but we're not separated. Welcome to my office. And I get to peek into Alan's office, and you just peeked into Stuart's office. We are so honored to be with you today to try to look at a problem or challenge that we feel very strong. I'm going to begin with the end in mind. If you want copies of these slides, here's a QR code. Alan will show it again at the end where you can get copies. We're going to cover a lot of material, but we're also going to take questions. So we hope we face a problem that will be helpful. Here's the outline of where we're going. We want to make human capital decisions deliver results. Very simple agenda. And I'm going to talk about that in blue for a few minutes. Then we're going to stop for some questions. Then we're going to give you a test. Where should you invest in human capital? Talent in the black area, leadership, organization, or HR. And then Alan's going to talk about how we move ahead. The thing that I'm really excited about, as Stuart laid out, is this is not just an academic set of ideas. We're going to ask you in the next 2 weeks, if you want to join us, to take a short survey, and then on April 15th, to join again with Alan, Norm, and I on what do we specifically do to make a difference. So we're discovering that it's not just about ideas, it's the impact of those ideas. If you're watching this by videotape, and many of you are, please share the tape with others, especially before April 15th so they can come. So let's get ready to rumble. Let's get ready to have a dialogue. I'm going to start where we can't get away from. Content is king, context is the kingdom. What's the context of the world we live in today? By the way, everyone we talk to can pick one of these 6 things. Here's the crises of 2020 and 21. On the top right, the global pandemic. You can't have a discussion anymore. Have you had your vaccine? What's happening with the pandemic? At the bottom right, we face around the world social injustice, refugee issues in Europe, in Asia, social injustice in the United States. We face political posturing. I picked the United States, which is not doing so well. I know in Britain, where many of you come from, where Stuart lives, there's no political issues at all. The politics are static and easy and no challenge. That was a joke. They're everywhere. We face civil disorder around differences in refugees. We face a global recession in some industries more than others. And I think around the world, we have faced an emotional deficit disorder. We could spend our entire time, not just 1 minute, recognizing what do these crises mean. 2008 and 9 was the financial and economic crisis. We believe that 2020 and 21 is the organization and people crisis, or human capital. I should do a little test. In the last year, through Thinkers 50 and other great groups, how many of these initiatives have you looked at? Referral hiring, efficiency, digital, agile, retaining people, the ecosystem, employee engagement, customer agenda, social responsibility. I am finding that I'm getting overwhelmed. I am seeing so many ideas in the last year and a half that I've never seen before. We are seeing a tsunami of great ideas about what we can do in the human capital space to respond to these crises that are so pressing and so real. So here's the question, and I'm not going to do a poll, but I'm going to ask you to reflect on yourself. How confident are you right now that you know where to invest in these human capital initiatives around talent, my fingers, organization, leadership, and HR to deliver results? How confident am I that of all these initiatives I could invest in, is it changing my culture? Is it showing empathy? Is it building teamwork? How confident am I about where I should invest to deliver results? We've done that survey. We often get a range of 3 to 9. By the way, if you're a 9 or a 10, call us and teach us what you know, because we want to increase your confidence. And by the way, if you're a 1 or a 2, don't give up. That's our question. That's the problem we see today. In groups like Thinkers 50, there are so many good ideas, and they're all good. They're all good, and some of them are even good to become great. But that was a joke on Jim Collins. How do you know which ideas should I focus on? So here's the question today that Norm and Alan and I have been after now for 2 years. Are your investments in human capital, and we define human capital as talent, the people, organization, the system, leadership, the combination, and HR, are they giving you measurable results? Most organizations we've studied are spending 1 to 2% of their total revenue on those initiatives, but they're not exactly sure where to spend it. We want to create with you, and we've spent time doing this, a simple, usable organizational guidance system that tells us where to best invest. That's the problem. That's our direction. We hope that's what you're looking for. If I'm a business leader, where should I invest in talent, organization, and leadership in the world of crisis we live in? If I'm HR, where should I invest? If I'm in strategy, where should I invest? We believe that a guidance system is based on theory and research. Decades ago, and I'll share it because I'm in my home office. This is my dissertation from 1982, before many of you were born. It's a numerical taxonomy. What a numerical taxonomy is it takes data and turns data into simple solutions. Well, by the way, I should also share, I'll do it real quick. Back then, we got paid for the dissertation. So this is the paycheck I got in 1982 from University Microfilms for $11.85. So I spent a year doing a dissertation and got $11.85. Notice I didn't cash it. It was too valuable. Well, over the last 40 years, we have done a lot of research. What does human capital mean? Talent. There's research on people and talent. We've written books. There's been hundreds of interventions. Organization. We've written a dozen books on what does an organization look like? What are the capabilities of agility, culture, innovation, collaboration? Leadership. What do leaders know and do? Norm and I have done, I think, probably 7 or 8, 9 books. We've done fortune studies with thousands, and human resources. We've just completed our 8th round of competencies now with 125,000 people. All of that data is a taxonomy, what our dissertation was, about very simply moving to guidance. Let me tell you conceptually where we want to take you. This sounds like an easy journey, but it's not. Norm has just written some nice stuff that we believe. We start at the bottom, and I've written books called Dashboard or Scorecard. How do I compare to someone else? We love it. Do an organizational assessment, do a strategic assessment, do an innovation assessment, an agility assessment, do a leadership 360. How do I compare? Build on my strengths, overcome my weaknesses. Well, that shows me how I compare. Then best practice. Where do I get an insight? Who can I copy? I've written books. Stuart on his wall has got articles. We've got books and articles. Here's a best practice. Go to Unilever for social citizenship. Go to Amazon for customers. Go to Google for information. Intervention. What data tests me where I can predict? We believe the benchmarking is a great idea, but it tells me how I compare. Best practice tells me what I could do and what others have done. Prediction tells me what's happened in the past. Guidance tells me what I should do. Let me say that again. We think the field of analytics and information is not about benchmarking. Here's the best in the world. It's not even about best practice. Who do I learn from? It's not even about historical prediction. It's about guidance. What should I do to succeed? That logic of guidance has a deep history. At a personal level, when I was a young man in college, I got career guidance. I did tests, I did strengths, my weaknesses, my passions, and the counselor told me where I should focus. As I get to be an older person, I get retirement guidance. You get investment guidance, where your portfolio. We get guidance from our phones and our systems. All of that guidance does is move the logic from description. What's happening today? What's my scorecard? What's my dashboard? What's my insight? By the way, I'm getting overwhelmed with insights. Go back to that earlier page. There's literally hundreds of great ideas in the last year. But I want to move to prescription. I don't want to just benchmark how I'm doing with others. I don't want to just learn best practices others are doing. I want to prescribe what I should do. What can I do in my organization to be successful? That's the problem Norman Allen and I struggled with for the last 18 months, even before the crises of 2020. How do we help business leaders? How do we help HR leaders access the right human capital decisions? And it starts with results. It starts with results. You don't know what the right thing is until you know what the results are. So when we start with business leaders, we say, what is it you're trying to accomplish? What are you trying to accomplish with your employees? Today, coming out of this incredible set of crises, we want to build well-being. There's an emotional deficit disorder in almost every company in the world. How do I build that well-being? How do I engage and help my people? I want to build strategic results. I want to reinvent my digital strategy. I want to reinvent my differentiation in the marketplace. I want to find out how I succeed. Outside the company, I want to deliver customer results. I want to get my net promoter score higher. I want to make customers connected. I want to deliver financial results, cash flow, intangibles, market valuation, and I want to deliver citizenship results to have reputation. Guidance begins with results. If I'm going to provide guidance and get very specific, I say, what results does my company try to achieve today? That's such a great exercise. It's the balanced scorecard. It's not new to us, but it's getting clarity around results. And then I want to say, what are the pathways to making those results happen? Let me go through those 4 pathways again. I could do things in talent. Are we hiring people? Are we paying people? Are we communicating with people? Are we training people? What do I do in the talent pathway to get the results to happen? That's so critical. And there's a number of things we've identified. We've identified 10: talent initiative, diversity, communication, career planning to make those results happen. What do I do in leadership? We know that leaders matter. We all know that. We know that leadership matters. What could I do to build leadership? And we've identified 6 initiatives based on our research and others' research. What can I do to build a great FIS, my organization? How do I make the organization happen? We've identified 12 organizational capabilities: agility, efficiency, collaboration, innovation, speed, culture. What's managing information? What's the organization I need? And finally, human resources. How could I build a better HR group or department? So here's the logic. I've got some outcomes I want to accomplish. Think of these 5 outcomes. I want to make them happen. Here's the pathways to helping determine where they should happen. How do I now combine the two? How do I know that my outcomes will be driven by my activities? By the way, this is a chart you aren't able to read. It's too small, but look at the logic. We've got 5 columns. I want to drive employee results. I want my employees to get well-being and productivity. I want to drive strategic results. I want to drive customer results, financial and social citizenship or responsibility. I've now got 4 pathways. I could manage talent and look at there's 10 initiatives. I could manage leadership. There's 6 initiatives. I could manage capabilities. There's 12 capabilities. The culture, collaboration, innovation, accountability. And I could manage my HR department. There's 9 initiatives. What I've now got is a fascinating matrix, and it's kind of complex. I got 5 outcomes and 37 initiatives. And if you're like most organizations, you spend 1 to 2% of your revenue on that 185 cells. Do we know where to spend it? What a simple question. What a simple question. In those 185 cells, where should I allocate resources to accelerate the results? Without that, we fall prey to investing in pet peeves, best practices, or benchmarking. Let me describe what we're trying to do in the guidance system. We're not all the way there yet, but we're trying to give you guidance about where should you invest to make it happen. Norm and I and Alan are working right now on the next iteration, and we're discovering with you. We hope you'll join us in this journey. Think of those 5 outcomes as a pentagon. You've got 5 triangles in a pentagon. So just envision those 5 triangles: employee, strategy, customer, financial, and community or social. There's my 5 triangles. On the other hand, you've got 4 squares. Where could I invest? Talent, leadership, organization capabilities, and HR. If I sit down with my business leader and pretend these are 2 dials, I want to improve my customer outcomes from 30 to 70. I want to move that triangle up 40 points. So I dial it up. Suddenly, I now can see in my 4 squares: talent, leadership, organization capability, and HR, where should I invest? So when I move the outcome up, I can now tell you which of those 4 quadrants should I invest in. And let's assume it's talent. I want to move customer up and get a higher customer outcome. Lo and behold, our guidance system says invest in the talent cell. Click on the talent cell. Now I've got 10 initiatives. Which one is going to drive that outcome the most? By the way, our research has begun to indicate that it's the employee experience. It's the employee experience. Whoa. Now, of all those things I could invest in to get customer better, I now look at talent and I dive down, and now I can go get some tools, and that's what we're going to give you April 15th. We're going to show you the tools to make it happen if you know where you're going. That is so cool. That is so cool. So instead of just randomly picking, you know where to invest. Think of those 5 outcomes: employee, strategy, customer, as a pentagon. Which of those diamonds or which of those triangles do I want to improve? Where should I then invest? Norm, I'm going to have you share the story about leadership in just a minute, about how they focused and got it better. Now let's go the other way. Let's say I want to invest in leadership because I'm the head of leadership. Well, there's 6 places you could invest in leadership. Look at those 4 cells, imagine that dial, and say, ooh, I want to invest in leadership. Which one of those 6 are going to drive these outcomes? So as I turn up the dial on leadership and invest, what's going to happen with employee, strategy, customer, financial, and investor? That's the guidance we're trying to provide you. Norm, do you want to just share that example on leadership that was so powerful?
Sure, sure. Yeah, we had and this is how you know that we're being serious about this with this org guidance system because we had a contract with a large healthcare company to do leadership development, and they were a very early adopter of these ideas and had their top 20 executives in the company go through and do all four of these pathways to identify what the impact would be on the square here, the or the pentagon on the results. And it turned out that employee or leadership development had very little impact on any of the results. They had already invested enough, according to the algorithm that we were using for impact, and so they had a much higher impact by excuse me by working on their business case for leadership, measuring, and then communicating that to investors about what they were doing. So very different result than what they had expected and what we had expected.
Norm, and we're getting that as we go through this. Now, to be really fair, we are creating this as we go. But look at how cool it is. If you want to accelerate your results, I want my financial results in that triangle in my pentagon to move from 40 to 80 on the instrument we've got. I turn that dial. I now know where to invest to make it happen. On the other side, I'm in HR. I want to build a better HR department. I want to make our HR department more effective. The fourth row in that HR row that you probably can't read is change the HR structure. Everybody's excited about new HR structures. Guess what we found? That one doesn't have impact. It's the relationships that do. We are now putting all of that IP into an intelligent system. In fact, what we know in our brains, Alan, Norm, and I, and distilling thousands of studies that Stuart and others at Thinkers 50 have done, that many have done, we want to put that into a guidance system that is accessible to you and easy to use. That's our agenda. How do I get guidance to invest my human capital, talent, organization, leadership, and HR to deliver results? That's the agenda. And we're going to take questions in just a minute. The implications are powerful. The question we started with, are my investments in people and organization, human capital, giving me results? Appreciate the context. The context is changing too. Get my vision ready. Number 3, define the results. Number 4, determine the initiatives where I could focus and then go focus on them. Let me say again, and then if you have questions, and Norm, I'll turn to you if there are 2 or 3 questions we have time for. In the field of human capital and in the field of marketing and in the field of technology and in the field of strategy, we are enamored with benchmarking. Benchmarking is how am I doing? How do I compare? We don't disagree with that. It's good to know how I'm doing. Then we get excited about best practice. Let's go to the latest book. Look at the books on my shelves. I've written them. Look at the books on Alan's shelves. He's read them. Look at the books on Norm's shelves. He's read even more of them. All these books are full of best practices. But you know what? You got to go the next step. We agree with benchmarking. We agree with best practices. But the real step is guidance. Guidance is what should I do? What should I do to make my results happen? That's where we're headed. That's the agenda. We've given you a tool to do it or a framework. We now have data from 1,250 companies. I think that's incredible. Over 2,000 people. We're offering this through Thinkers 50 free of charge. And if you participate with this assessment on April 15th, come back. You will get your report of how you go forward. Norm, let's take some questions at this point, and then we'll see where we go next with the discussion.
Okay, there's a couple of really good questions. The first one is, do you need to have some level of HR maturity to use the org guidance system, or could a relatively organic approach to HR work, and can you use guidance there?
Norm, what would you say?
I would say that you can use guidance regardless of the maturity of your HR organization, because It's basically we're not using an approach, a benchmarking approach, or a best practices, or maturity logic. We're using business results logic. So there shouldn't, and working back to what the investments would be to drive the results. So I don't believe you would need to have a mature HR organization to use it.
If Norm and Alan and I have done our job, we've taken RIP. Think of a diamond. You start with a simple question: are your investments working? Broad. Look at this broad. Look at this chart. Yuck. How do I figure out which of those 185 cells to invest in? Then at the bottom of the diamond, we've simplified it. We can tell you where you should invest. And actually, I think this will help HR maturity, because you in HR don't have to be able to be an expert in everything. You'll find out where you should focus. And then you can go get the expertise. That's what the April 15th session will do, about what you can do differently. So Norm, I love your answer. It's nice that we're on the same page. By the way, if you are mature in HR, I think this takes you to another level of maturity. Let me just share before we get another question. The biggest thing we've run into is some of the HR people saying, well, just show me the best practice. Show me the tool. Show me the workshop I should go do. No. Before you know the tool, before you do the best practice, find out where you should focus. That's what guidance does. Then we can give you the tool, and we have those tools. But we're not here to sell you the tool. We're here to help you discover the best practice, or the initiative that will lead you to the best outcome. Norma, another question or two, and we'll put
So
Alan
this
on.
is from Karen Paul. You mentioned HR structure wasn't important, but rather relationships. Can you say more about that?
Oh, yeah. By the way, we can talk about all 37 rows. Look at these 37 rows. We could talk about all of them. That's what the April session is. HR structure is about role clarity. And Karen, it's a great question. Karen, I bet you've done some version of RACI: responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. We've all done some version of that. In every consulting firm, let's get our roles clear: the generalist, the specialist. You know, here's what we found. If you want to deliver the results for employees, customers, investors, strategy, etc., getting role clarity doesn't matter as much as managing good relationships. And when you think about it, it's true. I've been married for over 45 years to a great, great partner, great wife. Not once in 45 years on Sunday night or weekend have we sat down and said, let's do a RACI. We got to shop, we got to fix meals, we got to do laundry, we got to pay bills. Who's responsible this week? Who's accountable? Who's consulted? Who's informed? Well, in some ways, I'm betting Alan hasn't done that. Norm hasn't done it. No, Wendy and I have a relationship. Last week, she was really busy with some stuff. I went shopping. I did laundry. We have a relationship. This week, I'm pretty busy, so she's going to go do some of that. Karen, a good set of relationships, both within HR and between HR and your business people, either employees or business leaders, will overcome a bad structure. A good structure won't work if you don't have the good relationships. By the way, you need a good structure. You need a decent structure, but it's the relationships. Now, let me take a step back. We can dive in, Karen, to that kind of detail, but look what's cool. The guidance system tells us down at the very bottom row, relationships matter most. Wow. Now I know where to focus. By the way, you got to get a good structure. Like Norm said with this company, you got to have a good leadership training program, but building the business case and building the reputation in the market, that's what matters most. Karen, that's a great example of where guidance focuses on what the right thing is. One more question, Norm, and then we'll do the next piece.
So there's a question, I guess it's kind of a hard question right now, but is how do we feed our algorithm? How do we ensure that the results are correct?
Oh, that's so cool. I get to talk about dissertation stuff. I'm not sure our results are perfect. Let me be clear. We have done validity tests. That's our background on the survey. I think we're in the 4th or 5th iteration of the survey, and we're continuing to do the validity test, the alpha test. We're also continuing to do the statistics to predict in those columns, and I got to not get too geeky. Each of those columns, employee strategy, customer, et cetera, we allocate the variance of those 37 rows. So we're doing regressions, but regression has a problem called multicollinearity. We've created an algorithm called variance decomposition that is unique to this data set, that partitions the relative impact of each of those 37 rows on each of those outcomes. I'm not sure our statistics are perfect, but they're pretty good. We have validated them with people who have PhDs in statistics. Our algorithms are good, they're not perfect. Join us. We're not going to claim that it's perfect. Look at that little example I gave. Think of the Pentagon dial with five outcomes. Think of the square with 4 tools. We're trying to create an algorithm that will tweak the 2. We haven't created that yet. I'm being honest. We're getting the algorithm that will make it happen. Join us in this journey. If Thinkers 50 is only about solutions that have been solved, then they're not Thinkers 50. They're old news 50. We're Thinkers 50 about creating the next generation of knowledge. And so join us in that process. I think our statistics are pretty good. We keep testing them with those who are smarter than us, but we think we're pretty good. You know, I'm going to go the next step, and it's going to be a weird step, and it's why you want copies of the slides. We've said there's 4 areas you can focus on: talent, leadership, organization, and HR. What I'm now going to do is just say these are the areas where we can get guidance: talent, the right people; organization in blue, the right systems; leadership in green; and HR. I'd like to do with Monica a poll. Which of those 4 do you think is most important for your organization? And so take a second, just check one of the 4. Which of those 4 do you think would drive those results the most? What I'm going to do is, and I said that Stuart is going to sing a song while you fill out the poll, and he volunteered Alan to do that. We're not going to sing a song; just fill out the poll, and I'm going to talk for just a minute. What we've got in the slides is a summary for each of those 4 pathways. I'm going to take the 2 that score the highest and show you what we're going to do with you on April 15th. Again, when we talked to Stuart about doing this session, Stuart said at Thinkers 50, we have a lot of great ideas. And boy, do I agree. I have so much admiration for our colleagues who are in those Thinkers 50 polls. They think, they do books, they have great ideas. But we want you to not just have the idea. Our mantra is ideas with impact. So between now and April 15th, if you'll fill out one of those 4 surveys, or all of them if you want, you will be able to come on April 15th and get specific things that give you guidance. And I'm going to show how that might work. So let's see, Monica, if we've got the poll. I think that's enough time for everybody. Well, that's useful. Organization gets 30. By the way, I love the poll because what it says is it's a menu. If it was 90% on organization, then there wouldn't be a purpose for guidance because y'all got to do organization and forget the rest. By the way, I know that means there's 15% of folks working in the HR department. Let me take you through organization and leadership and show you what we can begin to provide you. And I hope, Norm, we can track or keep track of what we just came up with. It's always fun to do those polls. So let me take you down to organization, and I'm going to move quickly here. I hope my slides are still being shared. I'm going to take you down to organization. I'm going to skip talent. I'm going to skip leadership, and I'll come back to it. But organization scored the highest. So for most people, that's what worked. So let's look at the organization pathway. Then I'll show leadership. And again, on April 15th, you're going to get more depth. Here's the question. Do we have the right organizational capability, workplace, or process to create value for our stakeholders? Kind of simple question. You got to get a theory. You got to have a point of view. We've done, as Stuart said so graciously, we've done a lot of writing on organization. We redefined organization as capability. Those are the books to the most recent book called Reinventing the Organization with Arthur Young last year about work out of China. Again, I'm just giving you a highlight of the theory that we're trying to test. Look across the boxes. Organization and legacy was about hierarchy and bureaucracy. What's my role? What's the rules? And you had an organization chart. Where do I fit in? Who do I do work with? And you can see the books. Then we had systems. How do I align the systems? The STAR model by Jay Galbraith, who was one of my mentors and one of the people whose work I have so admired. The McKinsey 7S framework or their current health index. looking at the systems and alignment. Then you get capability. And Jay Galbraith, in his later work, started talking about what he called organization design criteria, or Gary Hamel and C.K. Prahalad, two of the most thoughtful colleagues in the world, and ourselves. What are the capabilities you need? We believe that logic has even further evolved about what capabilities you need in a marketplace. So we've begun to write about creating capabilities that are market oriented, built into the ecosystem. Again, that's the theory of organization. The highlight is you've got to focus on capability. Organization is not your structure, it's not your systems, it's about the capability that we have to be successful. With that in mind, we've identified in our research, and Norm and I have published a number of articles on this, what are the capabilities a company is known for and good at doing? Are you good at talent? We are a great company at McKinsey at attracting and retaining great people. Are you great at agility? That's a buzzword today. It's moving fast, adaptability, flexibility, transformation. Are you great at strategic clarity, creating a shared agenda, vision, mission, purpose, rules of the game? Number 4, are you great at customer centricity? And I could keep going. The right culture, collaboration. We now have a test that tells you how well you're doing on each of these 12 capabilities. We've got a 4-item test, and your question about measurement was so helpful. We validated the instruments. We've done factor analysis on the 48 items. We've done reliability scores on those items. We've changed those items. I think we're on the 4th or 5th iteration of that survey. In a short survey, we can measure where you are focused in your company on these 12 capabilities. And here comes the money chart. So bear with me for just a minute. This is a chart that's a little hard to explain, and I want to explain it in a way that works. Let's start by saying the rows, 1 through 12. These are the 12 capabilities you could invest in: talent, agility, clarity, etc. Information all the way through number 12. A is the global mean. And we caution you, this is a beta test. I'm reporting data here from about 1,000 companies. We now have 1,250, I just noticed this weekend. So we're constantly upgrading this, but column A is the global mean. Look down that column. The capability that we're best at, look down that column for this overall sample is 3.9, collaboration and social responsibility. That's what we're best at. Or 3.61, customer centricity, I'm sorry. We're worse. It's something that scores lower, accountability. B is the standard deviation. How much variance is there? By the way, most companies today would benchmark. We'd have A1, what's my company score? And I'd look at my strengths and my weaknesses and try to move forward. Or we'd best practice. Who's the company that scored in row 4 the highest in centricity? What do? I'm going to go copy them. That's the world today. Column C, D, E, F, and G change that world. And let me tell you how. Column C is an index of how good are we doing at employee, well-being, productivity. D, how well are we doing at strategy, reinvention. E, how well are we doing at customer. F, how well are we doing at financial results. And G, social responsibility. I now have an outcome I care about. Let's take column C. If I want employee morale, productivity to go up, where should I focus? And it's not just focus on what's weak, which is innovation. At row 8, it gets a 3.13. The green is a high score. The red is a low score. Look at what I've discovered. If I want to drive employee outcomes, the capability my organization should be known for, the highest in green down column C, 17.1 is strategic clarity. The second highest is obviously talent. Building good talent will help, investing in talent will help my employees have a higher result. Look at where I don't need to invest as much, the reds. Let's look at financial results, column F. If I want to deliver financial results, guess where I should focus? Look down column F, row 3, strategic clarity. If I want to deliver social citizenship results, what capability should I build within my company? Look at row 7, the green, huge, Social responsibility. Again, that makes sense. It validates our study. You know what? That is cool. I now want to look, which result column do I want? Where then should I focus? Now take a step back. Remember the old game in the 80s and 90s? You'd look at a picture and you'd bludge your eyes and you'd say, what's the overall message? If I take a step back, look at the overall greens. Strategic clarity. If there's one capability in this beta test sample that I should build inside my company, it's strategic clarity. It delivers all those results, not social citizenship as much, but it delivers the others. Wow. You know what's interesting is in a world where I could focus, and Thinkers 50 has expertise on every one of those: agility, clarity, customer, culture, collaboration, innovation, accountability, information technology. But now I can begin to discern, where should I focus? That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. And now this is a preview for April 15th. If I know where I should focus, and by your own company score may be a little different. This is the full sample with 1,000 companies. In this one, we now have 1,200. If I know where I should focus, look at what I could do to begin to make it happen. For example, if row 3 is where I should focus, strategic clarity, I should understand context. I should define, where do I win? How do I play? Some of the work on strategy that's so brilliantly laid out by our colleagues in Thinkers 50. But before I know where to focus, I've got to do this assessment. I've got to get the guidance. I've got to say, which of those 5 Pentagons outcomes do I want? Now, in this organization area, this is where I should focus. I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. That's the organization pathway. And now I can look in my company, and when you do the assessment between now and April 15th, you'll get a report that Alan will talk about that tells you where your company will focus. Then on April 15th, we'll share with you what are some of the interventions you can do so that your focus is more effective. I've just done capability. Norm, let's take 1 or 2 questions on that, or if you want to clarify, and then I'll show leadership, and then we'll turn it to Alan to go next. So anything jump up about, because this is a very different logic.
One question is, how does this work in a world of remote work?
I think this is even more powerful, because in remote work, you cannot govern by being in person. You have to govern by a set of principles and values that cut across lines. Traditionally, you'd go to work. Work could be a place. Now work is a set of principles across boundaries. If you know where to focus, you can ensure that those principles work across those boundaries. And the survey can be done anywhere that you want to do it. Norm, any other comments on this? And I'm either from you, and I'm going to go back up to the leadership pathway, because I said I'd do 2 of them as I move back. So Norm, any comments before?
I agree with that. Just one other question was, so I work for a public agency, and financial outcomes aren't part of our what we're required to do. So can we replace financial with something else?
Sure. Well, by the way, we were doing this work with a public agency. I'm not sure they want to go public with it. That's probably one of the best in the world. You've got employee outcomes, strategy outcomes, customer outcomes, or the citizens. Financial outcomes is the confidence the legislative community has. We call financial outcomes political goodwill. Did I get my share of the budget? So in the ministry or the agency I work with, how am I doing against the financial requirements the legislature provides? Then you still have social citizenship. So in that financial outcome column, we have budgets we work against the political goodwill. That's the equivalent of intangibles for the public sector. This applies to the public sector as much as, in fact, almost even more. Let me do one more pathway, and I'll show you what you're going to get on April 15th, and then Alan will take you through it. Remember, we have talent, organization. I just took you through leadership. You got to start with the theory. This is the work Norm and I have done on leadership, and we've stolen ideas from a whole lot of people. We're honest plagiarists. We're public about our plagiarism. Leadership is about results with attributes. We call it the code, with results for customers, investors, employees, and organization, that gets sustained. And we've done a lot of work in Asia where we've applied these models. We believe in our work, there's 6 dimensions of creating what we call a leadership brand. Build a business case. Why does leadership matter? Agree what leaders should know and do, get the right competencies, assess leaders and leadership. So don't just assess me as a 360, but the career of leadership. Invest in developing leaders, number 4. Number 5, measure leaders and ensure reputation. So we have an assessment tool that we hope you'll take on that leadership pathway. I think it has 4 items for each of these 6. Clarify the business case. To what extent do we have a strong rationale for why leadership matters? Define what leaders should know and do. We have a competency model, call it whatever you want, profile standards. We have a rigorous assessment process, a 360 or career assessment. We have great ways to develop leaders. We measure the impact and we see the reputation. And again, here's the money chart. Let's go through it again so that you begin to get your head around this approach of what we're trying to do. Start with the rows. There are 6 dimensions of building leadership. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have a global mean. On this one, in our beta test, we have 536 respondents. We've now got more than that. What's the average score? Notice the lowest score is measuring the impact, row 5, 2.64. The highest score is building the business case. We have a standard deviation, column B. I could put in column A1. Where is my company? And then we'd benchmark. How do I do versus A? And we'd build on our strengths or overcome our weaknesses. Or we'd say, who's the company that got the highest score in row 1? That's a best practice. Let's go copy them. We don't want to go there. Take a step back. Look at column C, the employee, D, strategy, E, customer, and F and G. Where should I invest in that column to get that result to happen? Notice this one. It jumps out at you as Norm shared. It's number 1, row 1, the greens. If I want to deliver results, the most critical thing I can do with leadership is build a business case. Build a business case. And Norm's example was so good. Look at row 4. The company came to us and said, develop our leaders better, invest in a new program. Our results for this sample and for that company showed it doesn't matter. Now on April 15th, come on back. We're going to give you activities you could invest in that would help you do that to happen. Again, I could do the same chart with talent. I'll just show it real quick. This is the talent chart, which is fascinating. It shows that acquiring talent gets more greens. I could do the same chart with HR. Let's get to HR real quick. And again, these slides are available. We're public with it. We're giving this away. I could show that in HR, look at row 9, where relationships matter more than organization structure, row 4. That's our overall finding, our beta test with 1,000 companies. This is cool. By the way, if you're not jazzed by this, there's something wrong, because this is so cool. Where do we want to go? We want to take this pentagon of 5 triangles. We want to take these 4 squares, and we want to build an algorithm that connects the 2. This is the overall result. But that's not yet guidance. Guidance means we want to create this for your company. We want you to increase your confidence. Where could my company invest in these 185 cells to make outcomes happen? That's what we're trying to do as we move forward. Ellen, I'm going to stop sharing screen. I'll let you share screen at this point. So let me stop sharing and I'll just talk for a minute and then transition to you. By the way, I hope that jazzes you. It is a simple question. Where should we invest in human capital to deliver outcomes? It's a complex solution with a ton of problems. We have run into so many speed bumps and problems and challenges. We could spend hours on it, both technology-wise, data-wise, algorithm-wise, measurement-wise. But at this point, we think we've got something you can use. And Alan, I'm going to turn it to you. I hope it works on this agenda.
All right, Dave. Can you see my screen, Dave, and hear me?
I can see and hear you. Thank you. I'm going
Okay,
to go on
perfect.
mute so you don't hear me breathing.
Wonderful. All right. Well, thank you very much, Dave, for teeing this up. And we're super excited. I'm really excited, and I want to invite everybody to join us on this journey. And I want to walk you through how to get there. But first, I read an article this weekend that I thought was really interesting. It was in the Wall Street Journal, and it was about this company that launched new satellites, and they're now mapping the entire planet Earth 15 times a day. And they're getting more precise and more accurate and building a map of planet Earth. Ultimately, they expect to come up with such fast mapping that they're going to be able to build a digital twin. And in our country, in the United States, we have strip malls, shopping malls with a bunch of stores. And in this article, it said strip malls change out the stores 50% in a year because there's so much dynamic nature to the retail environment. And with this new model of mapping, you're going to be able to see and start to predict real estate changes and traffic patterns and all kinds of things that come from this better data. But the key thing there is it's all about better data, which is really what we're trying to do, which is build on 30 years of data, the deepest and widest data lake about organizational effectiveness. And ultimately, everything we're building and driving is about building algorithms and continuing to improve those algorithms to provide guidance for an organization. So imagine if you could think of your organization and the journey to improve performance. Imagine if we could start to give you a steering wheel, a gas pedal, a brake. And that's the journey we're on. That's the map we're trying to build. We're trying to build something that looks like Google Maps or Waze. And so we want you to join us. And by joining us, we're creating a free set of services to start to drive so that we can start to map our planet Earth organizational effectiveness with ever finer grained detail. And then we can improve our algorithms so that your guidance becomes more precise for you. Now, we know that it's not that simple. Organizations are far more complex, right? So if you were trying to build guidance for a car, that's one thing, because a car is a machine, so it knows how to learn and unlearn. But organizations are filled with humans. And sometimes we don't learn. Sometimes we don't know how to unlearn. Sometimes we behave well, sometimes not so well. Sometimes we're feeling great, sometimes not so great. So we take all of that into account. So I just wanted to sort of frame everything that Dave has been building, and Dave and Norm, we're attempting to codify into a very large set of data, a set of data lakes that are deep and wide to give you more precise guidance. Okay, so first thing you do is go to www.rbl.ai, and that's how you get started. And you go there and you pick which pathway you wish to choose. So you can do leadership, brand, organization capability, talent, or HR effectiveness, or you can do all four. So again, we would take it one bite at a time, but figure out which one you wish to take. And you come to the site and it looks like this, and you pick your pathway. So once you pick your pathway, let's just move stuff so I can see here. You'll see that we start to collect. You'll be able to do snapshots over time, but we're just going to start with you pick your first pathway and you do your self-check. You get your scores. You'll see what that looks like. And this is the part where it gets really powerful for your organization, of course, is when you get a multi-rater view. So Dave and Norm gave an example of a healthcare organization. We have another organization I saw this morning. They're going to take 100 of the top 200 leaders in a very large organization. They have over 100,000 employees, and they're going to have 100 of the top 200 people start to do the multi-rater structure. So you do the stakeholder invites on the platform. This is how you'll invite others. And all of this is what we're asking you to do before April 15th. So if you can complete this, you'll get your OGS results. And so the results will go through all of 185 columns and rows, right? So there's 185 different cells for pathway for you. And it's taking into account your strengths, your weaknesses. Again, the more multi-rate you do, the more precise your guidance becomes. But it takes into account your strengths, your weaknesses. It takes into account global best practice or the mean scores, ultimately running through our variance decomposition algorithms to get, here's your top 3 things that you can work on. And so you'll see what that looks like. You'll be able to share the report with others. And again, this is the report that you will get in detail that will then be debriefing each of the 4 pathways on the 15th. And you'll be able to see your benchmark data, the benchmark data. So if you want to see this, we know that this is, that it's like human nature. How do we compare? I want to see strengths and weaknesses. I want to see how I compare to best practice. So we've been providing that. So that's in the report, just in case you want to see what that looks like. And then we have some free tools that we've built and we're developing, and we're going to continue to develop. The RBL Institute that Dave and Norm run, they've been developing a lot of tools for many years. And so we're pulling tools from the Institute and making them available as part of the guidance system, part of the free guidance system, because we want to get you on the journey, get you started, get you using a very advanced organizational analytics system, framework, tools, because the more of you that join us on this journey, not only do you get to be on the cutting edge, but you're helping us map the earth 15 times a day. You're helping us build that data set that helps you get more precise guidance. Again, we're built on 30 years of this and tools that have been perfected over 30 years. These are all things that we're providing for free as part of the basic service. And we do have a premium service, and we would invite anyone that wants to go further or deeper to just join us. Send us a note. You can send us an email. You can send a note. You can reach any of the 3 of us on LinkedIn, our organizations, for the premium guidance. But for this, you've got the tools, you've got the recommendations, you'll get some charts that show you green areas where you should be investing, where you should be moving towards if you've chosen the outcome and impacts that you're trying to achieve. So you'll get all that. And once again, you'll go to rbl.ai, pick your pathway. You can self-check or invite others. We deeply encourage you to invite others because you'll get such a better result if you do that. And ultimately, across the 4 pathways, you'll see that on the 15th, starting at 2 p.m. UK time, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, we'll be debriefing each talent pathway. So if you do any or all of these, you'll be able to join us. This is for people that have completed the pathway. This is a full sort of debrief in each one of these pathways, and we'll be debriefing the framework and the tools for that pathway, as well as giving you some specific advice and guidance for the Thinkers 50 cohort of organizations that join the guidance system. So that's the path. Those are the dates, April 15th. So I think we have about 2 weeks to get something done. So you might want to get started today. If you need a refresh on today's event, the recording will be made available to everybody here. So make sure that you take a look at it again. If you need to refresh, share this with any of your colleagues, or just go to rbl.ai and get started. So I'm going to stop right there and see if there are any questions. Hopefully that was clear. And we'll
Alan, oh, the next slide. Go to the next slide. It has a QR code if you want to download
I'm sorry.
the slides.
Yep.
Just download the next slide. So people can get the slide. You can get it and leave that on for a second so people can get it.
Sure, we can leave that there. And Dave and Norm, I'll turn it to you. Norm, if we have any questions or anything you want to bring it home.
Yeah, I guess there's a final few questions about how to do this and so on, but I think you've answered that, Alan. I mean, we want you to go to rbl.ai and fill out one or more of the assessments that you're interested in, and then Alan just showed you the dates for when we're going to review that. So I think that's the important piece, and we'll look forward to continuing the dialogue with you then as you get into that. There were some other questions about people who have already used it and specific questions about doing that. Maybe we handle those offline and send us a note, and we'll follow up with your company specifically if you're having some problems with anything.
So
Norm, let me just thank Stuart. Stuart, obviously we're excited about this. We think that this is a complement to what you've done so brilliantly in Thinkers 50. We think it doesn't take away from any of the brilliant work that all of those thought leaders have done. It just helps us figure out where should I focus now so that I can access the right work to make sure that we make a difference. And I'm going to end my comments Stuart, and turn it back to you with 5 very good words. The words I always end with: the best is yet to come. The best is yet to come. I hope that continuous learning and the guidance system we provided, you're going to take it, you're going to get irritated because it's not perfect. The survey's not perfect, the report's not perfect. So tell us how to make the best yet to come. Part of Thinkers 50 is not we thought 50, it's Thinkers 50 for where we're going. Join us at making it better. Stuart, thank you, and Des for the great work. And I got to do a shout out to Monica. I know she'll be embarrassed by that. She won't show herself, but your staff has been incredibly diligent in their patience, even as we redid these slides at 2 o'clock this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. What a fantastic session, and what a fantastically global audience from Kenya to Singapore. Dave, Norman, Alan covered a lot of ground in just 60 minutes, from the secrets of a successful marriage to the primacy of the employee experience. So Dave Ulrich, Alan Todd, and Norm Smallwood, thank you very much. As Alan just said, please share the link to the recording of this event with your network. The wider it is spread, the better. The more people involved, the better. As we say at Thinkers 50, there is nothing so practical as a great idea. Please fill out the assessment and begin to reap the benefits. We look forward to seeing you again on April the 15th for the follow-up events. Thank you for joining us.